Yes.
And the way to solve the problem.
Yes.
Okay? But I think there is another problem.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, when I listen to you, I think about me, that sometimes I don't want to keep up certain negative emotions.
You don't want to give up certain negative emotions.
Okay? I want to continue hating him, for example.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I want to continue to be jealous.
Okay. Okay.
I want to continue to all negative emotions.
Ah, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And if we think, for example, we can say, well, you can think about compassion, okay? Think that the person has, maybe he has cancer, maybe he has a wife that shout at him or maybe, okay? I don't know. Think about all the things. That doesn't help me because I want, okay, to continue hating him.
But why do you want to continue hating? Is there a reason?
And that is the point, I think.
You don't know why?
I think it.
Because it's a habit, so it's like you're so used to it. You need to find out why.
I think it's
Yeah.
what I think is sometimes it's something that identifies yourself.
Ah, that's me.
That's me.
Ah.
Okay. That's me that I hate him. That's me that I'm jealous.
It's part of your identity. Okay.
Maybe that.
Interesting, very interesting. Very interesting. So there's a sense that you wouldn't be yourself if you didn't have that hatred. That's me.
For example.
All right. So if you were to get sick, you wouldn't want to be cured from that sickness because you wouldn't be you without being sick, right? It would be the same. Right? You would have to say, if you get sick for a month, a month would be enough, I guess, to feel like this is part of me.
No.
People do it.
No?
People stay sick all their life
People
because
that
it's
are
part of their
hypochondriacs,
identity.
yes.
Pardon, say again?
People that are hypochondriacs.
Ah, hypochondrians. Okay. But they're not even sick. They're not even sick, I think. They just like to be sick.
They
Okay.
are
They are.
sick. Sometimes
Oh,
they're sick
sometimes
because it's part of their identity for years and they can't get cured because it's part of their identity.
Interesting. Okay, yeah.
But
I think
I was
the
first.
Okay,
Sorry,
yeah, you're right.
I
Yeah.
have to say this because this
Yeah.
is really bothering me because something very important is missing for me as you speak about jealousy and
Yes.
rejoice.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, okay, this is such a common feeling, so
Yeah.
it has to has a reason.
Yes.
There has to be a reason.
Exactly.
And what I'm thinking is this is just a form of separation, feeling separated or feeling connected.
That's true.
Because if I feel that I'm not separated from others, there is no reason for me to be jealous of them, right? Because they're me and I'm them.
That's true.
But when I feel separated,
Yes.
so because jealousy is so
It's a sense of
such
like...
a terrible emotion,
Yeah.
I would have the motivation to find the connection to other people. I think this is what we're supposed to do.
Okay, you're absolutely right. This is another way of dealing with it, right? So to find the connection with other people, the sense that, okay, we're not identical, but we're very, very closely connected.
No, more than that. We are one thing. We are one entity. I don't know how to call it.
Ah,
it's
okay.
not really separated.
I see what you mean. It's almost like in the same way as our body is one big organism,
yes, it's
as
like
human
this finger
society.
would be jealous of my ear.
Right,
You know?
okay. Yes. All right, so that's already more advanced. You're right. What you're saying, you're talking about something more advanced. Because we're just at the initial stages of the book, for example, or our discussion. But you're so right. And even though this is more advanced, for some people it may be much more beneficial. So what you're mentioning here is the idea of dependent arising to a greater degree. In the sense that, yes, actually, the idea is, for example, this is again with our body. If you think of our body as like 50 trillion cells, and one cell kind of going, that bloody ear cell, that bloody liver cell. I mean, without the liver cell, you couldn't live. Without the, all the cells in the body are equally important. Likewise, all living beings in this world are equally important. So this already takes us to the higher kind of states where we come to understand that I am who I am. Everything good in my life is because of others. whether intentionally or unintentionally. But you know, this laptop was never intended to be good to me, but I still cherish it. You know, it didn't have the intention to help me, but iPad. But it's still, so I cherish it. So no matter whether people have the motivation or not, the fact I can talk is because of others. Okay, you could say, no, it was my parents. Well, who fed my parents? And who fed the people who fed my parents? And who fed the people who fed the people who fed my parents? Right? So you can go all the way. So many people in this world were responsible for me getting the education I got, for the food I got, made sure I'm warm, I'm comfortable, I'm healthy. So many living beings. Yeah, so this is definitely more advanced, I agree. And if that's helpful, that's a wonderful way of thinking. It just takes a little bit more effort to really think what this means in all the details. So if there's a sense I really like to hate that person, well, to look at this person, what are they going through? Who are they? Put yourself into their shoes. Very effective. So the sense of I and others is just a creation of the mind. And the stronger it is, the harder it is just to put ourselves into their shoes. But if we could just let go of that for a while and think, how if I was them? What would it be like to be them? And suddenly, they're we're the same. There's not much of a difference. We have much more in common than is different.
Difference. That's the beauty. I don't have to be what they are because they are for me what I don't need to be.
That is also true, but even if you see, for some people that's difficult. For you, that would work. But for some people, it's like, but they're not me, I'm different. You know, I don't feel what they feel. Some people argue along these lines. I mean, you know, whenever I teach, oftentimes people say, how can I put myself into their shoes? They're them, I am. I don't feel what they feel. Right? But that's just because I don't try to feel what they feel. If I were to experience the same, so I can put myself into their shoes and feel like, and then I get a sense, well, there's really no difference. Suddenly their happiness is just as important as mine. Right? So it depends. You see, in the end, they're all methods and techniques. For one person, this works. For another person, something else works. If it works for you to think we're just one big organism, perfect. Then that's effective. And it's true what she's saying. It's a bit like saying my right hand. If you say something positive about my left hand, you say, oh, someone says, oh, this is a beautiful hand. And my right hand goes, how dare them? You know? This, I'm the one here. They should say this about this hand. And then this hand kind of trying to destroy this left hand because it's jealous. But of course, because it's connected, if I inject poison in my left hand, well, eventually my right hand will be affected. So the same idea, as we're one big human family, we're part of one family. If I give any harm out, I will eventually experience the result because we're not disconnected. I think this is what you're talking about, right? Okay, so Leora wanted to say something? No, then I think you were faster, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about people who are dealing with, because it's one thing to say it's all in the mind, like if I decide, but some people are dealing with addictions, some people are dealing with OCD behaviors.
Yes.
And it's very difficult to say things to yourself when it's as if you're controlled by other forces in this respect.
You mean when you're addicted, you're controlled? Of course you're controlled by physical habits. But people who are controlled by physical habits, they can still, it's a determination, it's a mental determination in the end, right? Because otherwise heroin addicts could never stop. They can, right? I'm not saying it's all in the mind. I'm not saying there's not a physical world, but the mind is the most powerful entity there is. So people can't stop their addiction because they thought about the benefits of not being addicted and the disadvantages of being addicted. They make a conscious choice. Of course, if in the end you feel better being addicted and not, then there's nothing you can do. Right? You can never stop someone. And everyone has a choice in that. I mean, I cannot judge someone saying if they want to be addicted, then what am I going to tell them? They're really destroying themselves, which is terribly sad. But I can't force someone. Like the example you gave before, if I feel good to feel hateful, well, that's very unfortunate, of course, because in the end, you're harming yourself. And the question would be, do you like to experience all the consequences of this? But in the end, it's everyone else's decision. But if you come to the conclusion, I don't want to do this, the mind will be able to overpower the body. Otherwise, we could never leave addictions. My point is just the mind can be, and right now it may be weak, but the mind, because of neuroplasticity, I mean, if you look at neuroscience, I mean, the area of neuroscience, our mind, there's neuroplasticity, our brain can be changed. And because mind and brain are so closely connected, the mind can be changed. And it's actually relatively easy. It just takes time and determination. If you really want something, the sky's the limit. Pardon?
Who is the one who wants?
The mind.
Buddhism says there is no me, no ego.
I never said
Who
that.
is the me who wants the me to change?
It's the mind on the basis of which I impute I. I never said there's no I. I said there's a certain I that doesn't exist. You exist. You exist. So when you feel, I want to do something, you're determined to do something, it's an awareness, it's a consciousness on the basis of which you say I. You had a question before, I forgot. You raised your hand, yes, before.
It's a question, but as you were talking,
Yes.
maybe it's because I've been practicing a long time and I study a lot.
Yes.
A lot of, you started out talking about Western view of Buddhism,
Yeah.
and I get the feeling it's like more like the self-help positive psychology
Mm-hmm.
when you deceive yourself about how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
and the more I practice, the more I realize that it's okay sometimes if I don't want to practice,
Mm-hmm.
and
So
I
true.
should feel that. And,
Yes.
you know, I'm very connected with the somatic meditation, where do I feel that in my body, etc.
Yes, yes.
Also, when I feel jealous or
Yes.
I feel angry,
Yes.
to recognize that and not to cheer myself out of it.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm saying is that sometimes these strategies strike me at what may be being sold
Uh-huh.
as Buddhism,
Yes.
but really, I mean, people can choose whatever strategy they want.
Yes.
But
Yes.
to accept the way you feel
Right.
and to feel okay with understanding that you're suffering,
Uh-huh.
you're making yourself suffer and going through the whole compassion in the inside. and
Yes, yes.
everything. But there's nothing really wrong with it. For example, I was just reading an article by Pema Chodron
Yes.
on loneliness, the 6 types of loneliness.
Yes.
And that really struck me because a lot of people, a lot of what we do is driven by this sense of loneliness is a bad thing.
Yes.
And when we do accept it
Uh-huh.
and sit with it,
Yes.
it may not always be pleasant. That's okay. It's like
Yes.
chronic. I have chronic pain. It's not always pleasant,
Yes.
but it's not always the same, and it changes.
Right.
And it's not who I am necessarily.
Yes.
But there's no sense in jollying myself out of it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It's
Yes.
there.
Yes.
You know, if I choose to take something for my pain,
Right.
that's a choice I'm making because I find it too difficult to withstand.
Yes.
But I do have the pain. The pain
Yes.
is always there.
Right. Right.
And the same thing with sometimes with jealousy and anger.
Yes.
You know, I am angry. I feel here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't necessarily have to jolly myself out of it. I have to be a human being
Yes.
and interact appropriately. But that's where my mind, while you've been talking, is
Yes.
not to go more towards selling a white bread version of Buddhism, but saying, yeah,
Right.
sit with it. It's okay. It's not such a bad thing.
You know what I really like about our discussion right now? I mean, I may not get, but never mind. Let's go off the sense of research. What I like so much is that everyone here seems to be a practitioner or has to some degree practiced, and everyone has a different way of approaching it. Which I have just one personal way that I described here, and you just added another one, and lots of people added their own view. Just a sec, and I'm sure there'll be more to come. And that's the beauty of it, because Buddhism, in the end, it doesn't just say there's only one technique. There's so many ways of going up a mountain. Now, I didn't say that because I described one technique, which for me works well, and that's the only... If it works well for me, then I can introduce this, right? You introduce one that works well for you, and you have the full experience of that and can introduce it. And it's important. Sometimes I feel like you do, and at other times I feel like the way I just described it. So it's always different. But what I think is important to address what you actually said, yes, it is important because Buddhism is so much about letting go. And oftentimes, like, it's kind of like judging again, like, oh my God, I'm suffering. It's like the fear, or the suffering of this, of having suffering, or the judgment as in like, you know, it's a bit like, oh my God, I'm suffering, and then we get depressed. So the pain that you describe, this acceptance allows us to actually experience the pain, but no longer experience it as pain, without labeling it as such. Or with regard to the anger, well, I'm an angry person, I'm like this, and I'm just adding to my sense of this is who I am. So it's just anger, there's just anger, and letting it go, right?
And
so
it's okay, I am angry.
It's okay, like I said previously.
I need to accept myself, and not to say, no, I'm not angry, I'm happy, I'm happy.
No, that's not what I meant previously. You see, I talked about being accepting who I am. I have good qualities, I have bad ones. It's okay, right? But I'm talking about something, okay, let's say the anger arises again and again and again, or the jealousy arises again and again. Now, if I just can go, oh, I'm jealous, interesting, never mind, and the jealousy goes, great. But if instead, and I'm just taking that scenario, I go there, you know, I did take my exam, I was second, but someone else became first. Oh, I can't even enjoy being second. So if that's the case, if what she just described, you can just accept it, and in itself the anger goes away and the jealousy goes away, fine. But if all day long I'm jealous, I don't feel good being jealous all day long. I don't feel good being angry all day long. And if my anger makes me strike out at my partner, and we have fights all the time, and, you know, then that's the time to do something. So that's what I try to address. So then to go, okay, now let's look at this. What can I do to do? So, and then I said with jealousy, it's quite easy to just go, okay, Golem, you had your time. You were wild for a whole day. Okay, now it's time to, you know. So it was the gentleness, but to move away. It just, I think, you need to look at the situation, and as Lama Yeshe always says, you become your own therapist. In the end, you know what works best for you. And what you just described, in certain situations, that works best for me. And then in other situations, something else. So this is why it's so beautiful, because every one of you presents something slightly different. Your technique, likewise, beautiful. So someone may hear and go, oh yeah, that would work for me. This is why it's so beautiful. What I like about this is that you're trying to put it into practice. That's the whole point of why we come together here, right? Not just to learn about it, but to actually make it practical. Sorry, I don't... Oh yeah, you were first. I'm sorry. You beat that. Yeah.
For me, about anger, that really, you know, what would you say, that, you know, that you feel good with the anger, or you
identify with that.
And you wanting to continue, or your envy, like, I want to continue the envy. I think it's the very big self-cherishing, that even somebody else that has a succeed, even now, but now I'm the issue, you know, I'm jealousy of him, you know, I'm still, he is a success, he's a very good, but all the time we're trying to control, like, everything is in our own, like, everything is, we are in the center, you know, even...
it's all about me.
Yeah.
It should not about his success.
Even though he's very successful still, but what about me? I didn't success, you know. That's what I'm thinking sometimes, you know. And then it's like all the time it's in the center. I think that many times we do it because suddenly it's somebody, you know, somebody is more important than the I. Somebody is more handsome. Somebody was more rich, you know. Then the I again going down, and he is like.
If that happens, because that makes, I mean, I can totally see that. There are times when we feel like, I don't want to rejoice in him. It's not about him, it's about me. Right? Okay, that's interesting. When that happens, how can we go about it? I mean, what can we do about it? And then maybe just to tell yourself, well, but I have everything I need.
No, yes, I think that this is that happens to us many times because we are so our center
so
is
used to it.
Yeah, used to it, and so you know, protect the eye, and suddenly is, you know, something happened, you know, something.
It's irritating to some
to the ego, to the eye, to the centers, like somebody is, has more successful. Somebody is, did something I didn't want to, and so it makes me anger because this was my decision. This was my opinion.
But if you think this person is part of me, as she suggested, right?
Yeah, of course.
So, for example, your children, is it possible? I don't know. I'm not a parent. Can you be jealous of your children?
Absolutely.
You can? Oh.
No.
Okay.
But
So
less,
some say yes.
but less than others.
Less than others. Okay. So you can still rejoice, right? Okay. So then we could even feel like, okay, so if there's less of a sense, there's certain qualities in your child you would be really happy about, right? They would be happy about. So
Part
then,
of you.
part of,
Still
exactly.
you. It's still me. Oh, this is my success.
Yeah,
Out
exactly.
there.
Yes.
Good manners and obedience.
Yes, good manners and obedience. Yeah. So, for example, then you could think of this other person. This person is actually part of me. So her technique really works well. If it's like, oh, it's me. But this person's part of me, so it's okay. So
And
their
it's not-
success is my success.
And it's not say that if he has it, you will not have it. That's
Exactly.
Also, that's
Yeah, because if he has it, you have it.
yeah.
Usually, like if your arm is beautiful and you're beautiful, right? Because you're part of it. And so this idea of acknowledging this would still be part. You acknowledge the jealousy. You don't judge yourself, because then otherwise right away, I want to make all of what you said relevant, because it is. So what's your name in the... Ellen. As Alan said, for example, when it arises, it's okay. Because otherwise self-hatred may arise. It's okay. It's all right. And anyway, so I'm jealous, that's okay. But anyway, this person is part of me. So in being very gentle, to not kind of go against it, but rather tell yourself, well, but this person is actually part of me. So their success is my success. So in that way, it may just go away on its own. Ellen, what do you think? Or is there still a difficulty?
I'm just
You see,
I
like,
agree. Everybody has a different approach.
have a different approach. Yes.
But I just feel like the closer I really want to get closer to real awareness and experience.
Right. Yes.
Whatever is there is there.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I
So
can
the part of
figure out-
letting go is still
I
very
don't have,
important.
that's not who I am.
Yeah.
One of the things that really freed me up and why I became a Buddhist was because when I started hearing other people say, this is who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't change, and I started realizing that's not really true,
Mm-hmm.
because we're not that fixed identity.
Yeah. That's very important.
So it's just, I guess it's just my approach.
Yeah.
I feel freer
Mm-hmm.
when I take myself with all of these.
But if your
problems,
anger
and
doesn't
when
go
I'm
away,
jealous- Pardon?
if your anger doesn't go away, if it still remains.
Some things are more deep-seated, like we were talking about don't blame your parents, but if I understand that I had parents who were not responsible
Mm-hmm.
and who raised me a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
and there are a lot of things about me that became habitual over many, many years,
Mm-hmm.
or methods of survival,
Mm-hmm.
it's easier for me to accept who I am,
Mm-hmm.
not to necessarily say, blame you're a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I understand where they came from.
Okay.
But it's easier to accept it and to realize, well, my anger is not something just for this moment to breathe through
Mm-hmm.
or to feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's more deep-seated.
Okay.
I have to spend more time in it if I really want to deal with this. And the other thing I was thinking when you were talking is,
Mm-hmm.
we feel certain things, but that doesn't mean one of my freedoms is I don't have to react.
True.
I can feel that moment.
Mm-hmm. That's
and
good. That's
act it
good.
More and more,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a sense of freedom. We don't have to act out and hurt other people.
That's kind of saying that's Gollum. I don't need to go along with Gollum,
Yeah,
right?
it's like fine, you're there, and it's my golem.
Mhm.
I'll have a golem inside of me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's part of who I
Right.
quote am. But
Mhm.
I don't have to react
Yeah.
and be that fixed person who reacts angrily or in a
Mhm.
jealous manner, or as a fake person, or as deluding myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to do that. It's not necessary.
Okay.
Very
Very good.
Still okay.
Okay.
I can bear it.
Right.
The fact that I can bear these difficult emotions
Mm-hmm.
makes me feel stronger and freer than probably anything else I've tried over the years to deal with difficulties.
Good, good. Okay. That's definitely an important part. We can choose to not act from it. Yes.
How does the Buddhism explain a kind of, I wouldn't say, maybe self-hatred, but destructive impulse? I mean, I know that my life is much, much better than they used to be, and still sometimes I feel that I seek the suffering. It isn't anymore, but something very small can strike me, can drive me very crazy, and then I get into the circle of unwanted thoughts, or a kind of obsessive, even I would say obsessive thoughts of being harmed also.
Okay. You're talking about when something, like something unexpected, something
Yes.
you don't want arises.
Yes.
Trust me, that is the greatest challenge for anyone. For me too. These are the times they say when this is the greatest opportunity to practice. You wanted to add something? Yeah. This is the greatest opportunity to practice. So, very difficult. What can you do in such a situation? I guess it's just watch your mind. Really watch your mind. Watch your reaction. I mean, something happened. Okay, I don't feel good. Acknowledge that you don't feel good. Okay, it's just a feeling of not. Okay, it's there. All right. Instead of pushing it away, that's the problem. Pushing it away, that's repression. That is suppressing it and it'll come stronger. And then see, I always think of Shantideva. If there is a remedy, why worry? If there is no remedy, it doesn't help to worry. You see, so like to try, of course worry arises, but to just watch that worry and go, well, let's first see what there's a remedy. So you can catch it in the act. We worry about something that hasn't happened yet. Okay, and just be aware, well, right now, I don't know what's going to happen. It is like this, but what is the remedy? Yeah, and just kind of like try and see what is the solution, where were the causes, what were the conditions that gave rise to this. So how can I deal with this problem? And if in the end I cannot solve this problem, well, okay, then I need to make adjustments. And the funny thing is we always adjust. We always adjust. You know, it's like the first day of a problem is always the worst.
Yes.
Right? We all know from experience. The first day is like, oh, and the next day, it's impossible that it stays the same. So Jesuit and Zapama once said this. There's a certain degree of happiness we usually have. And sometimes it goes up and sometimes it goes down. But eventually it comes back to that grade. So if you really understand, and you can raise that level of happiness by transforming the mind, by eliminating some of the afflictions, you can actually raise your level of constant happiness. But the good thing is you will always bounce back. So even when something horrible happens, and this is something, if you go back in time, you can see from your own experience this is true. And when you know this, then when something horrible happens, you know it will be terrible today, tomorrow you feel better. It's always like that. It's impossible otherwise. Look at your own experience. Someone dies, initially you feel terrible, but eventually you come out of it. It'll never be the same as when the time we found out about their death. The most horrible things happen, you will always bounce back. That is just the nature of things. It's the nature of our mind. That suffering is not in the nature of such that it can actually destroy us, really. It is there, but we'll always bounce back from it. Okay? So then it helps you. It has helped me. When something terrible happens, I know I'm going to feel bad today, but I know I'll feel better tomorrow. It's always degrees of it, right? And if there's a remedy, why worry? Okay, anyway, I do notice, sorry, one last thing, I'm a little bit over time.
Okay.
Do you want to...
It's a little addition to what you said.
Yes.
It reminds me what she said.
Yes, please.
That as far as I understood, in Buddhism, what we do with the mind is not to suppress the afflictive emotions,
No.
not to suppress them, like I'm not angry, I'm happy, and instead just try to be smarter with the afflictive emotions, like try to recognize them and
Yes.
to work with them and change it for positive.
Yes.
You say it now, not to push.
Yeah.
Before it sounds to me that I need, maybe you say that I need to
yeah.
push.
Yeah.
No, I want to push me to Joyce, and it's not.
No, I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating, but I do it with fun, you know? It's like fun in my mind. I go, No, I'm really happy for them. You see, it's like a game for me. It's almost like a game. I'm not suppressing anything. You see, suppressing has right away that sense of forcing, of negativity, of forcing something. Yes, but no, I'm just saying, all right, Gollum is there. Hi, Gollum. Just a sec. I'm so happy, and then Gollum just kind of disappears. You know, it's like a game. To me, it's almost like a game, and I found this to work. But again, everyone is different, and what I think is so beautiful that I can only give you one side here, and you've filled in the gaps. You've filled in lots of other parts. It's become much more complete. I could have never given you that complete picture of what we've been talking about. So anyway, we need to leave it at that. We've already covered a lot of the book, so don't worry about it. We've already gone into certain aspects that are very important, how to deal with the afflictions, which we haven't even mentioned as we go along. But I'll continue after the break. We still have enough time. So enjoy your lunch.
שלא נרשם עדיין, אתה נירית, תרימי רק את זה?
כן.
הרשמה אצל נירית.